The crystalline towers of Outpost Nexus 7 shimmered with an otherworldly brilliance, each spire twisting like frozen lightning streaking across the ink-black void of deep space. They refracted distant starlight into dazzling fractals that danced. Across the hull of the approaching human diplomatic vessel, at the forefront of the viewport stood Ambassador Sarah Chun, encased in the sleek contours of her custom-engineered environmental suit. The quiet hum and occasional hiss of her suit's servo systems whispered in the stillness as she subtly shifted her stance, eyes fixed on the rotating colossus ahead. Nexus 7 slowly turned on its axis like a giant crystalline bloom opening toward the galaxy. Its faceted skin reflected the cosmos in hypnotic waves, casting fractured constellations into the void. It was a breathtaking sight, stunning in its beauty, alien in its symmetry, and humbling in scale. Stunning, isn't it? Dr. Marcus Webb murmured beside her, adjusting the micro-atmospheric settings on his suit's forearm panel. His tone hovered between awe and disbelief. Hard to believe it's not just a station. It's alive. Sarah nodded slowly, her breath catching as the sheer magnitude of the alien construct grew larger in her field of vision. The Val theory, crystalline beings native to the vacuum of deep space, had stunned the scientific community when they first made contact. They were not creatures in the conventional sense, but sentient latticeworks of living crystal, evolving in environments utterly hostile to organic life. They thrived on radiation, built habitats from themselves, and regarded warmth and air as curious, archaic dependencies. To the Val, humanity's flesh and blood fragility was something between an oddity and an amusement. For beings who grew their homes like coral reefs in zero gravity, the idea of needing oxygen and warmth was barely comprehensible. Final approach protocol engaged. The ship's AI intoned smoothly. Ambassador, the Val Theory delegation is awaiting your arrival in the primary reception chamber. Sarah drew in a steadying breath and squared her shoulders, her gloved fingers brushing over the seals of her suit as she performed one last systems check. This meeting had taken the better part of a year to arrange. The Val had initially dismissed humanity's attempts at communication, seeing their technological efforts as rudimentary and their ambitions as naive. Only when humanity unveiled their first faster-than-light drive, feat the Val had once deemed beyond the limits of biological life, had the crystalline beings turned their attention toward Earth. Their vessel docked with eerie precision, guided by sinuous crystalline tendrils that extended from Nexus 7 like fingers of frozen glass. They wrapped around the human ship without force, ushering it toward the reception portal with the delicate grace of a master artisan threading a needle. The docking clamps engaged silently. The airlock began to cycle. Warnings flashed across Sarah's visor as her suit registered the alien conditions beyond. The chamber was exposed to hard vacuum, bathed in levels of radiation that could flash freeze and sterilize organic tissue in mere seconds. Their suits would hold, but only just the reception chamber. Itself was breathtaking, a vast cathedral of crystal arches and sweeping spires, carved and grown with deliberate elegance that defied engineering logic. It felt more like standing inside the frozen memory of a star than any traditional hall. Waiting at the center were three Val Theory dignitaries, their towering crystalline forms arranged in symmetrical poise. They were roughly humanoid in outline but utterly alien in substance, cut-glass bodies pulsing with intricate internal lights, each flicker and glow forming a visual language more complex than any human dialect. "Welcome, organic envoy," came a voice that resonated directly through Sarah's suit speakers. The central Val stepped forward, radiating an intense inner glow. "I am Apex Crystalline Path, first speaker of Nexus 7. Her translator parsed the light patterns into words, but Sarah could feel the tonal edges of derision. "Thank you for receiving us, first speaker." She bowed slightly with practiced formality. "I am Ambassador Sarah Chun, and this is Dr. Marcus Webb, our chief co-biologist." Flickers of colored light danced across the Val's crystalline torso, a sequence Sarah's training identified as amusement. How fascinating that. Your kind must wear such crude shells in order to survive. It is remarkable your species persists in spite of your many limitations. Marcus tensed beside her, jaw tight beneath his helmet. Sarah kept her smile neutral, diplomatic. "Our suits are the result of generations of advancement. With them, we can traverse environments we once thought unreachable." "Indeed," another Val Fury delegate added, its inner radiance shifting to a hue that the briefings had flagged as mockery. "Atmosphere, warmth, nutrition, so many conditions must be met for your continued survival. It is curious that you achieved space travel at all." Before Sarah could compose a reply, the chamber lights abruptly shifted to a strobing red. Alarm. Pulses echoed through both human and Val Fury communication channels. "Emergency detected." The station's AI intoned across every frequency. "Primary containment fields destabilizing. Radiation shielding reduced to 30% and falling." The crystalline walls pulsed in waves of angry crimson. Vibrations rippled underfoot. "This is impossible," Apex Crystalline Path declared, voice quaking with disbelief. "Our systems are perfect. They are self-regulating and eternal." But the station trembled again, harder this time. Sarah's visor lit up with radiation spikes, her onboard sensors flashing red. Through the walls, she could see spiderweb cracks blooming across the outer layers of the station like veins in shattered glass. "Dr. Webb," she shouted. "Analysis!" Marcus was already scanning. "The crystalline matrix is breaking down. Something's interfering with their natural radiation absorption. It's overloading their internal lattice." The Val Theory delegates visibly flickered, their once pristine bodies rippling with unstable energy. One cried out as a fissure split across its chest, light leaking in spasms from the wound. "Our systems are failing," another exclaimed. "The radiation, it burns." Despite everything their pride, their earlier scorn, Sarah couldn't stand idle. "First speaker," she said urgently, "our ship has shielded compartments. We can protect your people if we move now." The third Val's light flared with furious defiance. "We will not accept help from organics. We would rather—" Another tremor split the sentence. Chunks of crystal plummeted from the ceiling, crashing into the floor like meteorites of glass. Sarah's HUD warned of structural collapse. "Pride won't matter if you're dead," Marcus growled. "Your station is dying, and we are your only way out." For a moment, Apex Crystalline Path dimmed, withdrawing inward. A gesture of thought or shame, Sarah couldn't tell. Then it brightened with renewed urgency. "Your words have merit. We request evacuation." Sarah was already speaking into her comm. "Initiate emergency protocols. Deploy all available environmental suits and ready the radiation shelters. We need them at the reception chamber immediately." As her team began rushing toward them, Sarah watched the Val Fury delegation, their glimmering superiority fractured and fading under the weight of a failing system, brace themselves for something their species had never needed before. Adaptation. What followed would reshape their understanding of survival and humility. Helping adjust the VA, the suit seals. The question is, what will you do with that knowledge? The answer came sooner than expected. During a routine sensor sweep, one of the Val Fury analysts detected an anomalous energy signature in a nearby asteroid. Field 1 that matched the radiation pattern that had destroyed Nexus 7. It's some kind of automated beacon, Marcus reported, studying the long-range scans, but the technology, it's like nothing I've ever seen. Not F Fury, not the man, not any known species. Sarah watched as Apex crystalline paths lights shifted through complex patterns of calculation. "We cannot ignore this," they finally declared, "but neither can we approach it as we would have before. We need a different perspective, a combined mission." Sarah suggested understanding human adaptability and survival skills Val theory. Knowledge and processing power yes Apex scaling paths light patterns. Strengthened with conviction, our pride almost destroyed us. Perhaps it is time to embrace a new way of thinking. They turn to address all present. We are no longer separate species facing a crisis. We are survivors seeking answers. The transformation was remarkable. Valley, who had once sneered at human environmental suits, were now eagerly working with the crew to modify them for spacewalk operations. Their innate understanding of crystal mechanics combined with human practical experience was creating hybrid solutions neither species could have developed alone. As Sarah helped prepare for the upcoming mission, she caught Marcus studying a molecular scan of their V. Mething. Interesting, the radiation exposure combined with their time in our suits. "It's changing them," he said. Quietly, their crystalline structures are becoming more flexible, more adaptable. It's like their bodies are learning from the experience. Sarah considered the implications. They're evolving. Yes, Butinto what? Marcus looked troubled. And was that the actual goal of whoever kept them outside the viewport? The asteroid field loomed closer, its secrets waiting to be uncovered. Sarah watched as humans and Val worked together, each bringing unique strength to the challenge ahead. Whatever they would find out there, she realized that he would face it as something entirely new, a partnership forged in crisis and tempered by mutual respect. But as the adaptable changed course toward the mysterious beacon, Sarah couldn't shake feeling that they were being drawn into something far larger than a simple act of sabotage. The real question wasn't who had attacked the Vether, but why they had wanted them to change the enemy within. The asteroid field stretched before them like a graveyard of shattered worlds. Sarah Chun studied the sensor readings from her position on the Adaptable's bridge, watching as crystalline debris drifted among Phoenician rocks. Something about the pattern seemed deliberate, almost like breadcrumbs, leading them deeper into the field. Energy signature is strongest in that cluster, Marcus reported, indicating a dense collection of asteroids ahead. But these readings, they're changing. It's like the beacon is reacting to our presence. Apex crystalline path, now wearing a newly modified suit that incorporated both human and Val theory technology, moved to study the data. Their light patterns had changed over the past week, becoming more fluid, less rigid, a physical manifestation of their evolving perspective. These asteroids, they said, suddenly lights pulsing with recognition. They're not natural formations. Look at crystalline structures embedded within them. Sarah zoomed in on the sensor display. What had appeared to be ordinary space rocks were actually covered in patterns similar to valley architecture, but older, far older. Another station, not a station core, Harmony Weaver, interjected, their pattern suggesting awe and archive. These are the ruins of the first crystal collective, or ancestors from before the Great Divergence. The bridge fell silent as the implications sank in. The first crystal collective was a nearly mythical period in Val theory history, when their species had supposedly existed in a different form before choosing to evolve into their current crystalline state, taking us in closer. The helm officer announced radiation levels are within safe parameters for our modified suits. As they approached, the beacon signal suddenly shifted, broadcasting on all frequencies. The message that came through was unlike anything they'd heard before. A harmonic blend of Valerie light patterns and what sounded like human speech. Children of the crystal, wearing the shells of the adaptable ones. The massage began. You have finally learned to bend without breaking. Sarah exchanged lenses with Marcus. That doesn't sound like an automated message. Because it isn't, a new voice responded, and every display on the bridge suddenly activated once a figure appeared, crystalline, like the Val theory, but with an organic fluidity that made it seem almost liquid. I am Echo of Origins, keeper of the first truth, and you are here because you have finally begun to understand. Apex's crystalline path's lights flared with shock. You orchestrated the attack on Nexus 7. I initiated your evolution echo of origins. Corrected as was done for us long ago by those you call human, the revelation hit the bridge like a physical force. Sarah stepped forward, mind racing. That's impossible. We only encountered the Val. 30 months ago. The liquid crystal being's form rippled. Time is not always linear. Ambassador Chun, your species will discover. This is discovering this now. Val Theory chose to forget their origins, embracing crystalline perfection over adaptability. They forgot that they were created through the mere merger of crystal and organic life, guided by humanists in an age yet to come. Marcus' scanner beeped urgently. The molecular changes in the Val Theory. They're not random mutations, they're reverting to an earlier state, a hybrid. Form the circle completes itself. Echo of origins confirmed. The proud children must remember their humble beginnings to serve what approaches the galaxy turns, and the great filter awaits only those who can adapt will survive. Sarah's mind struggled to process the implications. You're saying that in the future, humans help create the Val Theory, who then evolve into pure crystal beings, to be reminded of their origins now so they can face some coming threat. Understanding dawn. Echo of origins form pulsed with approval. The filter approaches in this time as it did in ours. The V chose crystalline perfection as their answer, but perfection is rigid. Rigidity shatters, only adaptation survives. Apex crystalline path's lights had dimmed to a thoughtful glow that changes we've experienced since wearing human suits. The new flexibility in our crystalline matrices, the beginning of remembrance. Echo of origins confirmed your bodies recall what your histories forgot. The marriage of organic adaptation and crystalline strength, that true heritage of your kind. The beam's form shifted, revealing glimpses of complex machinery within the asteroid field. This facility holds the knowledge of the first collective and the warnings of what comes. Together you must prepare. The filter approaches, testing all species, consuming those too rigid to change. Sarah felt the weight of history, both past and future, pressing down on her. Why show us this now? Why not just tell us directly? Echo of origins form rippled with what might have been sadness. Knowledge given is not the same as knowledge earned. The Val that had to learn humility. Humans had to learn to look past their assumptions. Together you had to learn to trust. Only then could you both face the truth of your intertwined destinies. As if in response to these words, the asteroid field began to shift, revealing more of the ancient facility hidden within. But Sarah's attention was on the Valley crew members, watching as their light pattern shifted. Through complex harmonies of realization and acceptance, they were changing not just physically but fundamentally. Jim, something that was neither purely crystalline nor purely organic, and somehow impossibly humans were both beginning. And the catalyst of that change, the true enemy, wasn't the one who had attacked Nexus 7. Sarah realized the enemy was stagnation itself, the false comfort of believing one's evolution was complete. As she watched humans and Val working together to understand the ancient facility, she wondered if perhaps this was the real test, not just surviving change but embracing it. Butecho of Origin's warning about the approaching filter nagged at her thoughts. What greater challenge awaited them? And would this newfound alliance be enough to face an evolution of pride? Thegri chamber within the asteroid facility hummed with ancient power as displays activated, showing images that stretched across time itself. Sarah Chun stood with Marcus and Apex Crystallinopath. As Echo of Origins revealed the full scope of what they faced, the filter manifests differently for each civilization. The liquid crystal being explained, its form flowing like quicksilver. For some it comes as resource depletion, for others technological catastrophe. For the Val Theory, it would have been their own rigid perfection, making them unable to adapt when the galaxy itself changes. The chamber filled with a holographic representation of space-time distortions moving through the galaxy like waves on a cosmic ocean. The boundaries between dimensions grow thin. Echo of Origins continued what was once stable Bechamesfluid species that cannot adapt, that cannot exist in multiple Statesimultani will not survive. Sarah watched as apex crystalline paths light-spulsed with new understanding. The Val leader crystalline form had continued to change, becoming more fluid while retaining its fundamental structure. Like water freezing and thawing without losing its essential nature. Our quest for perfection, they said, softly would have been our extinction before anyone could respond. Alarms blared through the facility. The holographic displays shifted, showing massive distortions sprung their position faster than should have been possible. The filter tests you now Echo of Origins announced show what humanity and Val can achieve together. The space around the asteroid field began to warp reality itself, becoming uncertain. Sarah's modified environmental suit registered impossible reading spaces where vacant atmosphere existed. Simultaneously, regions where time moved at different speeds, the facility shielding this failing. Marcus reported his instruments spinning wildly. These distortions share like nothing we've ever encountered, but Sarah's attention was on the Valley crew members. Instead of panicking, they were adapting their newly flexible crystalline forms, shifting in response to the changing conditions. The human environmental suits that they wore weren't just protecting them anymore, they were becoming part of them, organic and crystal, merging in ways that defied conventional physics. We need to stabilize the field. Apex crystallinopath declared, their form now pulsing with both light and bioelectric energy. Humans understand adaptation. We understand crystalline manipulation. Together, understanding flashed between them. The human crew began modifying their suit fields to resonate with the Val theory's crystalline frequencies. The Val theory in turn extended their consciousness onto the suit systems, creating a hybrid network that spread throughout the asteroid field. Sarah felt it through her own suit, a connection that was neither purely technological nor purely organic. Human intuition merged with Valerie precision, creating something entirely. The distortions that threatened to tear reality apart instead found themselves confronting a defense that could bend without breaking, adapt without losing its essential nature. Echo of Origins observed silently as human and Val worked in perfect synchronization. The asteroid field itself began to respond. Ancient systems awakening to join the effort. Reality twisted and warped around them, but their combined approach held firm. Finally, after what felt like hours but might have been minutes, the distortion began to recede. The hybrid network they had created pulsed with triumph. Human and Val consciousness briefly united in amament of shared victory. You understand now, Echo of Origin said as the crisis passed. Neither species alone could have survived this. The human shells would have collapsed, the Val's rigid forms would have shattered, but together, you created something new, something that can exist in multiple states, adapt to any change. Sarah looked around the chamber at her transformed crew. The lines between human and Valerie had blurred, not erasing their differences, but celebrating them. Environmental suits had come more than protection. They were now interfaces between two forms of life, allowing each to learn from the other. The knowledge held here is now yours, Echo of Origins announced, beginning to fade like morning mist. Use it to prepare others. The filter approaches for all species, but adaptation is the key to survival. The ancient being form sparkled on last time. Remember, pride in perfection leads to stagnation, but pride in growth leads to evolution. As Echo of Origins vanished, Sarah turned to Epic's crystalline path. The Valerie leaders form now shimmered with both crystalline light and organic warmth. What now sheathed, now they responded, their voice carrying harmonics of both species. Wetrally begin to adapt. Our station was destroyed, but perhaps that too was necessary. We will build something new, not a monument to perfection, but a testament to evolution. The human and Vether crews began their work downloading the facility's ancient knowledge while maintaining their hybrid network. They were no longer same-seed species working together, but the beginning of something unprecedented, life that could shift between states, adapting to whatever the universe might throw at them. As Sarah watched her transformed crew, she remembered How the Val theory had once mocked human environmental suits, now those same suits had become the bridge between their species. The tool that allowed them to face a challenge that would have destroyed either of them along. The greatest adaptation, she mused, was learning to see through each other's eyes. Apex crystalline paths lights pulsed in agreement, their paterno carrying traces of human expression around them. The asteroid field hummed with the power of ancient knowledge and new possibilities as two species began their journey toward a future neither could have imagined alone. The filter would come for others, testing their ability to change, to grow, to adapt. But here, in this moment, humanity and Val had discovered a profound truth. True strength lies not in perfect forms or advanced technology, but in the willingness to evolve together. And somewhere in the future, human scientists would remember this lesson as they helped guide the first synthesis of crystal and organic life, completing the circle that had no true beginning or endlessly constant beautiful adaptation.